Teabaggers, sometimes they're referred to, how this came about. Frank Schaeffer, some have described him as the right-wing turncoat, the fellow who gave the inside scoop on why conservatives are rampaging town halls. Why? Because he and his father founded this movement back 3-4 decades ago. And Frank Schaeffer, welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
I'm curious. I'm assuming when you started pulling people together for this thing in what we now refer to as the pro-life movement, or is broadly referred to as, that you were sincere in your beliefs and that you probably still hold similar beliefs that abortion at the very least should be minimized to medically necessary or as little as possible. What causes you to say that you now regret what you did?
Well, look, the story that I tell in this book is one that I began with a couple of novels called Portofino and then Zermatt and then Saving Grandma, which are kind of semi-biographical stories about a little boy coming of age and realizing he just doesn't believe what his parents believed. So this process for me really was almost like being deconditioned. I mean, I'm someone, look, let me give you an analogy. Let's say you're a little kid growing up in Sarah Palin's household today.
Right.
What are you hearing? Then you go off to college and you get a life of your own and you rethink your position. It's as simple as that. I mean, the America that was described to me in my youth of this decadent place sliding towards, either communism or socialism and homosexuals trying to take over the world, all this stuff is just BS. And when you compare it to reality and you actually wake up and smell the coffee, you begin to change your mind. And then in my case, it was more particular than that. I'm a writer. There's no room in the evangelical right wing for the arts. I mean, these people are just into propaganda, browbeating, evangelism, and so forth. So it was not my life. It was not my calling. And then, when I saw the religious right really become the enemy of the American people, literally in the sense that they hate America. They don't love America. They wrap themselves in the flag, but they hate the actual America. They hate multicultural, diverse America. They hate their gay neighbors. They don't want a black man in the White House. They're bitter people. When you realize that you were really just part of a kind of an extended white power movement in the name of Jesus, I decided to just get out, and that was in the mid-'80s. I watched my income, by the way, drop by 2/3 in 1 year. It was a nightmare on a personal level. But in terms of a life spent serving something, you just can't do this in good conscience. And I got out. I became a writer. I've written a number of novels, and I've gone from there. And so this latest episode for me with Sarah Palin and the healthcare debate is just one in a long string of evidences that there is a disingenuousness, essentially a lie at the heart of the right-wing machine, and it continues. And whether it's in the name of Christianity or in the name of the Republican Party, essentially it's all the same thing.
Why the lie, Frank Schaeffer?
Because these are desperate people who have nothing left. The Republican Party on its right wing in particular, the evangelical movement, certainly the fundamentalist part of that movement, these are people who bought into so many myths that one loses count, and essentially reality is catching up with them.
You write about how they're going to pursue a scorched earth policy, destroy the Obama administration, destroy America, even destroy the Republican Party if necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And essentially these are people who think in theological terms. They would rather be right and, when Jesus comes back, get translated to heaven, if they believe that, or they would rather be right, as Rush Limbaugh believes, and go down in flames, kind of like the last days of the Third Reich, if you like, the scorched earth policy that wanted to deprive the German people even of food and sustenance. These guys would rather see Obama fail and the country go down than him succeed.
Frank Schaeffer, we just have a minute or so left. Of the people who are showing up, the teabaggers or deathers or whatever you want to call them, and I probably shouldn't try to be so derogatory, because I think a lot of the average people who are showing up are just confused. They know things are going badly, and they don't know who to blame, and they're being told by right-wing talk radio, in particular, and Fox News on TV, that the person to blame is the Democrats.
Right.
But they're showing up, I think, many of them out of the right motive, which is they want their country to work. They just don't understand. They're not. 2/3 of Americans can't name one of the three branches of government. That's how bad it is here. Ever since the Reagan wars on education. How many of these people are the people that you and your father and the organization, and when you were back working with Dick Armey and your son was an intern for him, that you guys were recruiting for the anti-abortion movement and the anti-homosexuality, all those basic right-wing fundamentalist movements.
It's exactly the same people. It's exactly the same. Look at the TV images. Sure, there's some young people or younger people in there, 20s and 30s, but look at who's in there. It's a bunch of gray-haired guys my age or older. It's a bunch of women who are probably in their 50s and 60s. The backbone of this thing is essentially the veterans of the pro-life movement. These are the same people who, in a different time and place were out with signs saying God brought the killer after Dr. Tiller was killed, and they were rejoicing because he had been shot down. Yeah. There's a small group of people in this country who are angry, embittered, mostly white, and complete reactionaries, and they have been living on a diet of misinformation and lies for so long that literally the truth is no use. You can tell them until you're blue in the face, Obama does not want to kill Down syndrome children, whatever it may be. They just don't hear it.
It won't matter. Yeah. Frank Schaeffer, he's the author of Crazy for God, among other things. Crazy for God, How I Grew Up as One of the Elect, Helped Found the Religious Right, and Lived to Take All, or almost all of it, back. His website, Frank Schaeffer, SCHAEFFER.net, or .net is the website. Frank, thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot.
Good speaking with you. Coming up next, a caller wants me to explain right-wingers and deathers. Caller, you're up next.